Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Miss Tehseen Mistry, the English teacher in Anjuman Islam A.A.K English Secondary School. Today we are going to discuss a very simple but a very important topic in English language. So before we begin our lesson, let's focus on the image over here. So the picture here says, "Wow, it's raining cats and dogs out there." Do you really think that by the dialogue the boy actually means that there are cats and dogs falling from the clouds? No. So what does this statement actually mean? In this picture, instead of saying it is raining very heavily, the writer has said it's raining cats and dogs. This is a unique way of expressing an idea, and this is called figures of speech. These figures of speech are used sometimes in prose but mostly in our poems. So this is the tree, figure of speech tree. And there are so many different figures of speeches that we can see on this tree. It says inversion, then we have personification, the next is tautology, then hyperbole, onomatopoeia, paradox, oxymoron, interrogation, climax, synecdoche, repetition, antithesis, pun, anticlimax, alliteration, simile, metaphor, and there are many more. So let us discuss a few very simple basic figure of speeches today. So the first one we have here is called simile. So what is a simile? A simile is a comparison between two things of different kinds that have one point in common. In a simile, for comparison, we make use of any one of the words like, as, or so. So whenever we are trying to compare two different things on the basis of one common quality or one common point, then we say the figure of speech is simile. So let us see examples to understand simile in a much easier way. So the boy says, "This pizza is as cold as ice." In this image and the next one, the frog's eyes sparkled like diamonds. In these two images, when we consider the image on the left hand side, it says that the pizza is being compared with ice. So here we are comparing two nouns. The first is a pizza, the second is ice, and we are comparing the two nouns on the basis of one common point, that is being cold. Now for comparing these two things, we have used the word as. So since we are comparing completely two different things in the first example, by using the word as, we say that the sentence is simile. Similarly, in the second case, the frog's eyes sparkled like diamonds. Here again, the frog's eyes are compared with diamonds using the word like. So here, the frog's eyes and diamonds are being compared on the basis of one common point, and the point is sparkling. So, since we are comparing these completely different words by using the word like, we say that the sentence is simile. Let's move to the second figure of speech. The second figure of speech is metaphor. A metaphor is also a comparison between two things, but here the comparison is done directly. Here we do not use the words like, as or so. So, simile and metaphor, both these figures of speech are actually going to compare two things. But in the case of simile, we use some special words for comparison, whereas in the case of metaphor, we do not use any special words. It is a direct comparison. So let us see a few examples of metaphor. The first example says, Noah has a heart of a lion. And the second says, children are angels. In our first example, the word Noah is being compared to a lion directly. That is, the first noun is being compared to the second noun, we can say roughly on the basis of a common point of being courageous or brave. But here, for comparing these two different nouns, we do not use any words like, as or so. Since the comparison is a direct one, we say that this sentence is metaphor. Again, in the second example, the word children is being compared to angels. Here again, for comparing these two different nouns, we are not using any special words. Since the comparison is a direct comparison, we say that this sentence is an example of metaphor. Coming to the third figure of speech, it says alliteration. In alliteration, the first letter or the first alphabet of two or more words in a sentence are repeated for poetic effect. So, to understand this, let us see a few examples. The first example says, the terrible tiger tore the towel. And the second example says, Susie saw a silly seal. Now here, according to the definition of alliteration, in our first example, the letter T is repeated a number of times in the same sentence. The sentence comprises of 6 different words, and each of the words starts with the same letter T. Now, since the starting letter of all the 6 words is the same, we say that the figure of speech is alliteration. Similarly, in the second sentence, Susie saw a silly seal. Here again, the sentence has 5 different words. But if we look carefully, 4 of the words start with the same letter S. Therefore, this sentence is also an example of alliteration. So I hope that till now you have understood at least the 3 basic and the most simplest figures of speech. Moving to the next one, it is repetition. In repetition, one word is repeated 2 or more times in the same sentence for poetic effect. So here, when we talk about a sentence, in the same sentence there would be a word which would be repeated 2 or more times. When you spot such a word, then the sentence would be repetition. So let us have a look at the examples. The first example is Twinkle, twinkle, little star. And the second is Which, where do you fly? In the first example, the word twinkle has been repeated twice for poetic effect. Since the entire word has been repeated 2 times, we say that this sentence is an example of repetition. Similarly, in the second example, again, the word which has been repeated 2 times for poetic effect. So when we have the same word which is repeated two or more times, the sentence is said to be repetition. Moving to the next figure of speech, it says antithesis. In this, two opposite ideas are used in the same sentence to achieve a contrasting effect. Again, in this, two opposite ideas are used in the same sentence to achieve a contrasting effect. So, in this, we would have a sentence, and in the same sentence, there would be two opposite ideas, or in simpler words, two opposite words would appear in the same sentence. And when you spot such a sentence, it clearly comes under the category of antithesis. So let us have a look at a few examples. The first is, for many are called, but few are chosen. And the second example is, speech is silver, silence is golden. In the first example, the opposite ideas, many and few, and again called and chosen, they are used in the same sentence. Since we have a pair, or you can say in this case two pairs of opposite words appearing in the same sentence, the sentence falls under the category of antithesis. In the second example, again the opposite ideas, speech and silence, and also silver and golden, are used in the same sentence. Since they actually fulfill the criteria for antithesis, this sentence is an example of antithesis. So today we have discussed 5 very simple, very basic and easy to identify figures of speeches, starting with simile and metaphor. Both are comparison, but in case of simile, we make use of special words like as and so. Whereas in the case of metaphor, the comparison is a direct one. Next, we moved to alliteration, in which the starting alphabet of two or more words in the same sentence would be the same. The next was repetition, wherein we saw that in the same sentence a word would be repeated two or more times. And finally, we saw antithesis. In antithesis, two opposite words, or you can say two opposite ideas, are used in the same sentence for poetic effect. So today we have completed 5 basic and the simplest figures of speech. Thank you very much.